What is
What?
up?
Hey, how's it going?
Good, man. Finally, we're here.
Oh, awesome. Well, it's great to be able to talk to you. Thank you very much for taking time to do this interview.
Of course, man. Thank you. Sorry for all the rescheduling we've had to do, but I appreciate you having me.
Oh, not a problem. I mean, it definitely sounds like it's a great time to be in Undeath right now. I mean, you guys got to do some great shows last week. You got a nice upcoming tour coming up, and of course, the new album that is just over half a year now. I mean, there's a lot of good stuff going on right now.
Yeah, man. We're stoked about everything that's going on. We're excited that people are responding well to the album. We're stoked about the co-headliner that we're doing with 200 Stab Wounds that starts next week. It's just a lot of excitement going on in our worlds right now. So we're pumped about all of it.
Oh, that's so great to hear, and it's so great to see the rise of the band too. No pun intended, of course, with the album title and everything. But just the popularity just growing and growing with the band, and it's so cool to see that. I mean, with the second LP, and like you guys are able to do such an incredible tour coming up next week, and I'm seeing like everyone from around the world just like praising your name. It's so cool.
Thanks, man. Yeah, I mean, we're stoked about all of it, and it's the response that we've gotten is never something that any of us would ever anticipate. Like when we first started the band and when we first were releasing our demos and whatnot, we were kind of just hoping to play some shows around the area, and we were hoping to maybe like get down to New York City and Philly and Boston every now and then, but the places that this band has taken us and the opportunities that it continues to provide us are it's something that we're all super grateful for. So I'm over the moon about all of that.
So thinking about that as well too, I mean, obviously with this co-headlining tour that's going to be coming up, I mean, obviously you got an album to be able to promote behind that. I mean, how does it feel to have this album already over half a year now? It's already been out.
It's crazy. I mean, we like you spend so long writing the album, and then the mixing process is so long, the mastering process is so long. It's just this constant back and forth and back and forth, and then once that's all done, then you get into all the promotional side of things, like making the music videos and coming up with all of the stuff that goes into like the release of the album and leading up to it. So it's like it's fun, but it's also this like endless process of just things that need to happen. And then one day the album is just it's out, and you get about uh, a week or so of intense excitement about the fact that people are finally hearing these songs and seeing like the fruit of your labor for the past year or so, and then it kind of like tapers off a little bit, and then the album is just out there in the world and it doesn't really belong to you anymore. So it's cool, and the fact that it's been around for half a year at this point is like on one hand it kind of makes me it's like it's almost a little sad because I'm like the album is always like new to me, but at the same time it makes me excited because now we can really start like focusing on new stuff and we can start working on the next album. So that prospect is very cool to me.
Oh yeah. I mean, if especially when you got those creative juices flowing and you're able to work on new material and that momentum's going, I mean, obviously being able to capitalize on that. And of course touring as well too. I mean, with touring being taken away for a bit of time and now things slowly getting back to normal, the fact that you're able to do this co-headline tour with such an amazing bill from start to finish coming up next week and being able to hit so many different cities, being able to show off this new album with such a great lineup.
Yeah, I mean, we when we released our first album, Lesions, we there was no touring. We released that right in the middle of like the first initial wave of COVID. So we had like tentative plans to tour around it, but nothing really ever solidified. So I feel like ever since then we've kind of been just trying to play catch up. Like we're touring off of our new album, but we're also touring off of Lesions at the same time. So it's almost like we have two albums to promote simultaneously, and that's kind of what I feel like we've been doing for the past year or so. But yeah, it's fun, and this tour, it's like we've done a lot of support tours, we've done a lot of like mini tours and stuff, but we've never and I'm stoked about all that stuff, but we've never done an actual proper like full US headlining tour that was like our tour with like bands that we wanted to take out. and I couldn't have asked for a better lineup. You know, this is all like hand selected by us. You know, we love phobophilic, we love enforce, we love 200 stab wounds. So it feels very good and rewarding to finally be embarking on a tour that is like designed after our selfish desires.
Oh yeah, but that's what's going to make it a fun tour though. I mean, when you're able to tour with bands that you like and the musicians and the road crew who are actually good people to be able to tour with, being able to hit cities that you haven't hit yet. I mean, there's going to be a lot of great opportunities that's going to be coming out from this.
Yeah, absolutely. I seriously cannot wait.
So thinking about that as well too. I mean, obviously, like you mentioned, being able to do the support slots and being able to do like mini shows or full main support slots or whatever the case is. I mean, you've opened for a lot of great killer bands lately. I mean, even as of last week, you were being able to do some more support slots. I mean, what is that like for you being able to open up for all these different kinds of metal bands?
It's great. I mean, it's like some bands, and this is like no diss, it's just like how certain bands operate, but like some bands will only tour exclusively with bands that they, you know, can relate to. So like you'll see a lot of black metal bands, like very true cult black metal bands, like only playing shows with bands exactly like them. And you'll see a lot of death metal bands like only playing shows with old school death metal bands. And I have no problem with that. Like if that's what bands want to do, that's what bands can do. But for us, the fun of live music for me personally has always been to uh make new fans. It's been to get up on stage and like win people over. So that's like a very exciting prospect to me. And like for example, when we did the Black Dahlia Murder tour, which was our first ever real full US tour, you know, we're this brand new band. We barely have one album out. We're this like very old school sounding death metal band on a bill that's full of like deathcore and more proggy stuff. So we're kind of like working overtime to win people over, but that was like exciting. There's a lot of intense emotions that go into getting on stage in an environment like that, and it's so rewarding when you walk off stage after a set and you feel like you did really well, and then you get back to the merch table and you're hanging out and some kid comes up to you and he says like, oh my god, I've never even heard of your band before, but you guys were awesome, like I'm gonna buy a shirt, I'm gonna buy a record, whatever. Like, that's great. Like that's what it's all about for me. So those are the kind of tours that, yeah, while you're not sitting there all night necessarily listening to bands that you know you listen to in the van by yourself, you're exposing a genre of music to kids that maybe wouldn't otherwise be familiar with it. And we've got a tour getting announced next week that I can't really say anything about yet, but that's like another example of it's us on a very mixed bill full of stuff that maybe like your average undeath fan, quote unquote, like wouldn't necessarily listen to, but we look at it as a cool opportunity to reach new people.
Well, it's great to hear that you guys are going to be on a power metal tour. I think that's going to be really cool.
Dude, trust me. I mean, like if Hammerfall or Blind Guardian want to get us on a tour, like that's the easiest yes I've ever made.
And that'd be a perfect bill for me because I love both sides. I'd love to see something like that happen.
Yeah, I mean, me and Kyle and Matt, we're like such power metal dorks. Like that's what we listen to most of the time when we're driving. So I mean, like I think all of it. I don't think we would come home from a Hammerfall tour. Like we would just die on the road. Like there's nothing after that.
Oh, that would be so cool. Something to reach for in the future. But you know, the it's great to see that like the touring momentum is going on. I mean, obviously, again, like being able to promote this co-headline tour that's coming up, and then another tour to be happening next year. I mean, it's great to see that both albums are going to be getting that proper promotion. And I imagine along the way, it's like I'm sure new riffs, new ideas, new songs are going to be coming in slowly but surely. But again, like you mentioned, like being able to focus on the next album now. I mean, it's great to be able to have both sides of that going on.
Yeah, it is. And we've said yes to a lot of tours, and well, every single one of them that are coming up, whether they've been announced or they haven't been announced yet, are things that we just couldn't possibly turn down. But and, we're writing, so our schedule is getting really full, and like we're trying to write on the side and get stuff done, like in the couple weeks that we're home in between tours. But and we've got stuff written, but I can already tell it's going to come to a point next year probably we're going to need to start turning tours down because we need to write our next album. We need to record it, and it's always good to plan ahead, but also like we don't want to just be touring consistently for the next 3 years with no new music written, you know?
Oh yeah, and especially like right now when you are basically promoting two albums right now in that live setting, I imagine that the set list can be kind of challenging because you want to you might not be sure what songs you want to be able to play. You want to make sure that obviously with two albums and songs getting promoted, you want to be able to get those ones out. I mean, there's a lot of things that go into it.
There are, yeah, and and you think you can make it so much easier on yourself by like polling Twitter or whatever and asking people what songs they want to hear, but all the songs people ever suggest are songs that we don't know how to play anymore. It's like songs off our very first demo that we haven't thought about in 2 years. It's like uh so and it's like everything is so all over the place. So we just try to do a nice even mix of both albums. And then, we're gonna throw in a surprise or two. We'll probably play like an old demo song. We'll probably bust out like a brand new song that hasn't been recorded yet. So we'll try to keep it as like even but interesting to people as possible.
Oh, it's so great to hear that. And that's the exciting part about it too. I mean, obviously, again, with like being able to promote two albums like that, being able to see like a co-headlining here, and then the next tour that will be announced too. It's just like being able to see you with different bands. And there's a ton of people out there. Like I really do appreciate the fact that you can be on a bill that has different kinds of bands attached to it, because I feel like your guys' style can reach different styles of musicians, metalheads out there. And, just like you mentioned before, it's like there's people who've never even heard of you before and you won them over just from your live set and they weren't there for you. And imagine how often you're going to be able to do that with more of these opportunities being able to come up.
Yeah, it's great. That's the stuff that we really strive for as like a live band. And I do believe that the I feel like everybody else in Undeath would agree with me on this. I don't think this is a controversial take, but I feel like the ultimate Undeath experience is the live show. I feel like we translate the best as a live band. I love our records. I love what we've done with them, but I feel like the ultimate way of kind of processing what we're attempting to do as a band is to come and see us live. So whether that's we're playing on this headliner where, the people that are coming to the show are the ones who are, ostensibly coming to see us, or we're playing on a deathcore package tour where nobody there knows who we are. It's like regardless, the hope is that you're going to walk away from our set thinking like, okay, like I get this band now.
Oh yeah, and I've thought that since the beginning as well too. Like when I heard the debut, it's just like I love the way this sounds with the production, but I just imagine that the live setting that these songs would flourish so much more. I mean, especially with like the production value that you guys have and the songs that you write. It's just like the band's constantly getting stronger and stronger. And I can only imagine with that live show and the right equipment and when you're able to get everything placed up, it's just going to make for a killer show.
Thanks, man. Yeah, I mean we're trying. We've toured so much over the past year and a half that I feel like we're so tight as a band now. So I'm just stoked to keep going and see what happens next.
Oh yeah, and again, like we talked about already, it's just like when it comes to the point where you do have to start thinking about the next record. I mean, it's just like if you guys are this tight right now, I'm very excited to see what the song quality is going to be on the next album, because like this album just rules from start to finish, and it's just like one of those albums that has like instant replay value. Like as soon as it's over, I just want to go back to the beginning and start it over. And I can just imagine like you guys being able to spread your wings a little bit more, showing more about what Undeath is all about, and just getting tighter and tighter and more prolific with your songwriting. It's just going to get better and better from here on out.
Well, thank you. I mean, yeah, we're stoked about the stuff that we've already got that we're already working on. We had practice last night, and Kyle and Matt showed me a new song that everybody's been working on, and I learned the lyrics to it, and it's great. It just feels like a very natural evolution to what we've been doing on like from album to album. It's like I just feel like we're getting tighter and tighter and more focused as a band, and I walked away from that practice just very excited about what the future holds for us, and that's always a good thing. I've been in so many bands where it's no disrespect to any people I've ever been in bands with, but I've walked away from practices like, what the fuck are we doing? Like, what was that? But in this one, like every time they show me a new song in Undeath, I'm like, I cannot wait for people to hear this.
Oh, that is just so relatable on both ends. I mean, I definitely can speak of that myself, just like previous bands I've been in, where it feels like we've wasted like weeks or months on end and like nothing gets accomplished and we just sloppily go through a set list, just like trying to keep our chops together, just waiting for another show to happen or something like that, or just waiting for new ideas for new songs to come along. But then there's that one practice, that one idea of a riff or something that happens that just like sparks rejuvenation, and you just get so excited to be able to start learning it and start working on it and seeing where things can go.
Yeah, it's the best. I live for those feelings.
Oh, for sure. And it's again, just like thinking about the tours that are going to be coming up, the unannounced one, and of course, this one that's coming up next week. It's just like with the quality and the caliber of the bands that you're going to be going with too. It's like it's going to be a bit of a challenge because I mean, obviously you're going to be able to like tour with friends and being able to tour with bands that you like and care about, but it's just like those are top quality bands that you're going to be touring with, and when you're doing a co-headline like that, I mean, that to make sure that you're on the top of your game and make sure everyone looks good. I mean, it's going to be a challenge, but it's going to be fun to do that as well too.
Yeah, that's a great point, and it's something that we've thought about when we were putting the lineup together. Like Phobophilic, they're such a fucking awesome band, and they sound great on record. They sound great live. We saw them in Louisville, and they just destroyed. And like Enforced, we saw them on the Decibel tour that they did when that came through Rochester, and we were just blown away by them and how good they sounded live. Obviously, 200 Stab Wounds is like a fantastic live death metal band. So it's like we're on this tour with three bands who are just at like the absolute top of their game in terms of like translating their sound live. So it's daunting. It's a daunting task to go up there and try to like follow all of that, but at the same time, it pushes us to not like to give everything, to put it in like Sonic the Hedgehog terms. Like it makes us want to give it like our S plus plus our effort,
No, if you can just hit those speeds as well too, as
Yeah,
fast as Sonic can
exactly.
go. But no, seriously, it's just like again with like all the touring that you've done and everything. I mean, it's just great to see everything that's going along with that. So, thinking about that as well too. I mean, with all the touring that you've been doing, I mean, how do you feel about like where the band is right now when it comes to touring as compared to when you first started like touring in the past year?
Uh, so that's another great question. I mean, I feel very comfortable with where we are as a band. I remember when we did the Black Dahlia Murder tour, it was like we had like 20 shows under our belt, something like that. And then COVID happened. And then the first opportunity that we got after COVID was that tour. So all of a sudden we were jumping from tiny little bars and like DIY venues and basements to, we're playing these like 1,000, 1,200, 1,500 capacity rooms. And the first like week or two of that tour, it was great, but I felt so out of place. I was like, we're rolling up to these shows and every band has like light rigs and multiple crew members working for them, and all of them have been doing this shit for like 10, 20, 25 years, and here comes us and we're like rolling up in our rinky dink little van with our rinky dink little trailer. And we had an amazing tour manager for that tour, and he still tours with us all the time, but for that it was still like we felt like kids like the entire time. We just felt like the little kids on the tour, which is funny because we're all like almost 30. But every tour that we've done since then, I felt like a little bit more confident about like how to do this. When we ended Dahlia, I felt good, and then when we started Fetus, I felt a little bit more comfortable. And then when we did by the time we were done with the Fetus tour, I was like, oh, we're like we got this. We know the ropes at this point. So, and there's still a lot to learn, obviously, but uh, going into this headliner, which is by far going to be like the most demanding tour that we've ever done in terms of how long we're playing every night, to meeting audience expectations, to like how much merch we're bringing, like all the logistics of everything are way more intense than anything we've ever dealt with before. So it's a big challenge, but after all the work that we've done over the past year and a half, I feel like we're finally in a position where we can rise to it. No pun intended.
Well, it's so great to hear that too, and I gotta imagine with the experience, it's got to come along with that, and thinking about that as well too. I mean, obviously, when you are able to tour with such great bands like that, and whether you're doing full scale tours or you're doing a couple nights like you did with In Flames last week, like, have you thought any more about like how you want to do like the live show? I mean, have you thought about like lights or anything that goes into it more?
Yeah, totally. I mean, we've had a ton of conversations about that recently, and uh, for us, like the model is always Cannibal Corpse. Like not just in terms of music. Like obviously they're kind of the North Star for our band, but every time you go see them, like their production is very minimal. They might have like a couple things on stage. Like I know on the last tour they did, they had those like weird skin masks in between all the cabs, but like they don't really have a huge light show. They don't have like bass drops and backing tracks and all that shit. Like they just kind of go on stage and rip it, and that's it, and that's the show. And you're there to see Cannibal Corpse. You're not there to see like the Cannibal Corpse on ice experience. So like that's always kind of been the model for us. But that's not to say like we're not going to add a little bit more to our show. Like at this point, we have nothing. So we'd like to add one or two things. So I think like on the headliner, there might be some fog. There might be some slightly more sophisticated lighting cues. There might be like a sound guy, like so it's going to be a little bit more elevated than like what we've done before. But even with that being said, like I don't ever think we're going to get so involved in our on stage production that it's going to become like a whole thing. It's like the focus always has to be like you're going to see this band, and we don't want to distract from that.
Oh yeah, and the music calls for it to be done that way too. I mean, obviously you want to make it still be a show, but the music speaks for itself so much. And if you can add like a little bit of fog, if you can add like the right gels to the lights, can just like the right lighting cues or whatever. I mean, it can take a great show and just be able to elevate it just a little bit more. And with the music, that's all you really need to do, unless you feel like there needs to be something more to it.
Yeah, it's like we're we just want to add like the slight like just 5% more production to what we already have, and I think all of that can be accomplished by just adding like fogs and more concentrated lights. And once we have that done, I think we'll be in like a great place.
Oh, that sounds great. And I can already tell by just like the caliber of what you guys can write, the company that you keep with the bands that you're opening with, the bands that you're taking out on tour with you. And I'm very excited for next week to see that tour that's going to be announced as well too. That I mean, obviously with the fact that you guys are doing this co-headline tour and you're hitting so many different areas, but just seeing that you guys are going to be touring with even bigger bands and getting your name exposed out that way. It's so cool to see that you guys can adapt to so many different kinds of situations and just be able to put on a killer show night after night.
Thank you, man. Yeah, that means a lot. Appreciate that.
Oh, of course. And with two killer albums to be able to help promote now, and of course, the latest and being a part of Prosthetic Records too, it's just like they've had such a great clientele over the years, and it's great to see all the promotion that they've done for you, and just all these opportunities that have come this way. I mean, you guys have absolutely earned it all this way, and I'm again, it's just like I'm excited to see where things are going to be going from here, where when it comes to touring, new releases, everything that comes from here. I mean, it was awesome to be able to talk to you about all of it.
Thank you, man. Yeah, I was stoked to be here. Thank you for having me, and I'm excited for everything that we got coming down the pipeline, and I hope that people are excited about it too once they hear about it.
Oh, definitely. Before we wrap things up, is there anything else you'd like to mention that I hadn't brought up yet?
Uh, I don't think so, man. I mean, just you're very thorough. Just I would encourage anybody who's watching or listening to this to listen to the album "Kill" by Cannibal Corpse, and your
Yes.
life will be richer for it.
Still my favorite Cannibal Corpse album.
It's the best, and also "Glory to the Brave." Listen to that too.
Oh, yes. And It's Time to Rise from the Grave, of course.
And
Yeah. Well, I mean, if they're checking this out, they might check it out, but
yeah,
but no,
maybe.